guys have Minnesota sports flowing in their veins. Mackey and Judd on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
Time for another edition of Statements and Questions here on Minnesota Sports with Mackey and Judd. Presented in part by Legit Pizza. Boy, it's a great week to fire up some legit pizza. Maybe for the men's national title game tonight. Maybe for some of these dramatic Wolves games. Well, see if the Twins can.
The Masters?
The Masters.
Let's go to pepperoni on 8.
Yes.
That's a Supreme pizza on the 14th tee.
I really like how it's cooked.
You can stop into any freezer section of a grocery store near you to find that stone-baked cracker thin crust, Jim. Zesty tomato sauce, whole milk mozzarella, and have an authentic at-home pizza parlor experience. Yes.
Sounds great, Jim.
Legit Pizza living up to its name. Throwback-style pizza parlor vibes. All right.
Delicious.
I got one for you guys here, basketball-related, to start. We'll make a couple trips around the room. My first statement is this. Buckle up, because in about 3 years, the faces of both the WNBA and the NBA will belong to Minnesota.
Ooh.
Or Minnesota ties.
Ooh.
Anthony Edwards is on his way. There's some questions, off the court. Maybe
He doesn't want to be the face.
Clean it up a little. He doesn't really want to be the face, but like he will become the most popular American-born player, and there'll be some great international players. But he's on that track. Another playoff run or two, some more endorsements. And then Paige Bueckers finally checking the national championship box. It's kind of crazy. It's been like 9 years since UConn won a national championship. Mm-hmm. And good for Gino Auriemma. His career wouldn't have been complete without the 12th national championship. But as he said in the post-game trophy celebration, he goes, I don't really need another one of these, but these players deserved it. Paige Bueckers, not the explosive offensive scorer that Caitlin Clark was in college. But I think if she decided, kind of like LeBron, like if he decided he wanted to average 35 or 40 points in a year, he probably could have.
Right.
So I think there's a good chance, even though Caitlin Clark is the current face of the WNBA, I think Paige Bueckers is going to challenge her for that. So you're going to have Minnesota homegrown Paige Bueckers, and then Minnesota drafted and now cultivated Anthony Edwards. And we kind of claim Caitlin Clark because she's Iowa, and Iowa is Wolves territory.
She's Des Moines.
So we kind of get all three of them if you.
We can't claim Caitlin Clark.
Dude, the Iowa Wolves, the Wolves literally
Caitlin
have a
Clark.
farm system in Caitlin Clark territory.
So on Paige, two things. One is I think she's a more complete player. Like Clark's a phenomenal scorer. I think Paige is a better all-around player. The other thing, though, is I think she's also, and this is for a multitude of reasons, I think Paige is less polarizing, right? Well, like it feels like there's a lot of things about Caitlin that aren't her fault, but it feels like she's the more polarizing player. I don't sense, and correct me if I'm wrong, that Paige is polarizing.
Caitlin Clark was wildly more popular and drove more eyeballs, more interest. I guess the word polarizing, she had more of a fiery personality that created these individual rivalries with different players, right? So,
absolutely.
Yeah, in terms of on the court, she definitely, and maybe it was out of necessity, because when you play for Iowa, there's not nearly as many, highly recruited players as there are when you play for UConn. Mm-hmm. So Caitlin Clark during her career was shooting the ball like 8 more times a game than Paige Bueckers, because there's just more talent to have to feed when you play for UConn. So it'll be, and Paige a little bit more understated, but also pretty fiery. But I'm excited to watch her. Hopefully she doesn't get, who's going to draft her? Is it
Dallas?
Dallas? Okay.
Dallas has the first pick.
So I don't know. Maybe they can it'd be fun if they could do what they did with Wayland, which is, okay, go play for Connecticut for a few years, and then we'll find a way to get you in Minnesota for the good of the WNBA. That'd be great.
Paige Caitlin should be a great, head-to-head Bird Magic, right? Like something like that. It feels like it sets up as a very long time, great antagonistic on the court at least, of sorts, rivalry.
Paige also made an interesting comment. It was one of the interviews, like Holly Rowe. Holly Rowe's great at just getting everyone to cry. Just
She's really
asking
good
those.
She draws them out.
She
No
does.
question.
So she asked her a question about kind of the adversity and this, that, and Paige said something along the lines of, you have to hear from a lot of people that maybe want you to be like a certain other player. Like she kind of took a little sideways. I don't know if there's bad blood between those two players, Caitlin Clark and Paige Bueckers. I hope there becomes a little bad blood though. Because
you want some bad blood. No
the
question about
WNBA could use it. And then so Anthony Edwards and Paige Bueckers, the faces of the NBA leagues here in the next 2 or 3 years.
All right. Awesome. Here's my statement. If you watched it, Ovechkin, Capitals, breaks the Gretsky mark. And my statement is this. What Alexander Ovechkin did in scoring 895 career goals is more impressive goal-wise than what Gretsky did. And here's why.
Wow.
First of all, incredibly, Ovechkin broke the record in his 1,487th career game. That is the amount of games Gretzky played. So it is it is apples to apples. But second of all, there are some things that would have benefited Gretzky in today's game. They call more penalties. You can't slash at guys' hands. 3-on-3 OT goals count. Things like that. But if you look at it, Ovechkin came into the league when it was defensive first and quite frankly pretty boring. And it was lockdown. And Ovechkin has played against schemes now. Back in the 80s, teams tried to stop Wayne, but they didn't have like these team-wide schemes of trying to trap him or trying to the coaching now improved. The other key thing to me is this: goaltending. Goaltenders more talented now, certainly bigger. Goaltenders now are usually pretty tall, pretty
Aren't the
big,
pads quite a bit bigger
and
too?
Equipment. Exactly
Yeah.
right. Exactly right. So Gretzky, no question about it, the better all-around player. He facilitated. He was a goal scorer who was a lot of other things. Ovechkin, basically a goal scorer, but I mean, this was a mark that a lot of people thought when Gretzky said it in 1994 with the Kings would never be broken. I actually think, given the circumstances, I'm more impressed with Ovechkin and the time period in which he broke it than I was with Wayne. And I saw Wayne play, and Wayne was phenomenal.
Yeah, my question to you guys, the more puckheads guys on the show here, is anyone going to pass the record? And who would be? I think like Connor McDavid would pop in, but I actually think Austin Matthews is probably Austin Matthews is a higher end goal scorer. McDavid might be the better overall player, and he's a year younger than McDavid.
Exactly.
But he's only like 40% of the way there at age 27. So he'd have to double his current output from age 20 to 27 as he gets out of his prime, and then find another 20% toward the twilight of his career.
I think it gets broken by a player who's not in the league yet, but I think the most important thing is this: longevity. Like, that's the thing. Like, is Austin going to play till he's 43, 44? Probably not. And if you look at, like, Ovechkin's a complete freak. He broke his leg this year. He's, what, 40-ish? He broke his leg. He came back and just picked up. He has averaged something like 49 goals a year. Like, it's just stupid. And I think where it becomes very difficult to break it is you got to find a guy who's going to play for 20 years again, which I think will probably take place. But I would be surprised if anyone active in the league right now broke it.
Yeah, I think like if Austin Matthews can play long enough, he's racked up enough, because you get, like you said, you got to average over 40 goals a year for like 2 decades to even be in the conversation. Yeah. And he's racked up enough of those 50. Didn't he have like a 70 goal season in the last couple years? He or close to it. So he's racked up enough way above 40 that if he could settle in toward the end of his career and still be scoring 30 or 29 as a 38-year-old, he might have a shot at it. But
keep in mind too, Ovi was drafted in the lockout year, so right, they burned the first year of his first season. There was no hockey season. There was a mini lockout 8 years later. There was a pandemic shortened season 5 years ago.
It's crazy.
And he still was able to break this. And yes, it helps playing 20 years. He's also the all-time, not just now the all-time leader in goals, all-time leader in power play goals, game-winning goals, shots on goals. So yeah, he's the best goal scorer of all time. Here's one for you, Judd. Is there a world where Alexander Ovechkin's number 8's retired league-wide?
I don't think so. Because, the Gretzky one was simple because it was 99, which, tons of guys don't wear. 8 is such a common one. I don't think so. Because like, if you retire Ovechkin's 8, you technically should have already done Howe's 9, and you're not going to retire 9 because it's used by tons of players. So I think the Gretzky one was an easy one based on its significance of the number, but also I believe the only other player, if I'm not mistaken, to wear that number was a guy who played in the 70s and I think into the early 80s by the name of Wilf Paymont, and he's the only other guy. So I would say no, but it's still a phenomenal accomplishment.
Also, not to denigrate Alex Ovechkin, who does have the rightful title of greatest goal scorer in NHL history. Wayne Gretsky is still regarded as the greatest player in NHL history. Playmaking. He led the league in assists for like a straight decade, year after year after year. And Ovechkin is still 1,200 points behind Gretzky if you add in the assists that Gretzky racked up.
Yeah.
Maybe they were a little more liberal in like secondary assists back in the 80s. I don't know. But yeah, in terms of playmaking, it's not. By the way, Jaromir Jagr is second all time. 950 points behind Wayne Gretzky for number 1.
And I believe Gretzky 700 assists ahead of, who is it? I just had it up. Ron Francis? Is that who it was?
I don't even know.
But it's somewhat absurd.
Yeah.
Like that the assist record will never be broken.
Yeah.
But if Gretzky wore 9, that number is not retired by every single team. No way.
Okay.
Yeah, he once had, his numbers in the 80s are just ridiculous. But he had 3 consecutive seasons of over 200 points tallied between 1983 and 1986.
Yes. He is the greatest. He is the greatest all-around player. Like, Ovechkin's not close. But for Ovechkin to play this long and do that, and by the way, the league did a fabulous job. Like, they stopped the game. Yes, some people didn't like that. They can buzz off. But the whole thing, was done fabulously, I thought.
Mm-hmm. All right, I have a question for you guys. We've talked before about best times in the sports calendar year, also worst times in the sports calendar year. We've had that discussion a few times in the last couple months. But where does April rank? Where does April rank on prime sports watching? Here's some of the things that are happening, that have happened or happening. We've had Final Fours. We have NBA playoffs. We have the Masters. Mm-hmm. We have baseball being back. Hell, WrestleMania for the wrestling nuts out there is in a couple weeks.
That's right, Judd. The road to WrestleMania.
Raw tonight. You'll be at Target Center, I take it, Judd? $100 to get in the door.
I got my tickets.
Yep.
Okay.
Where does the April sports calendar rank? I think this is we all know of the prestige of the Masters, and we know the Final Fours, and it's awesome that basketball playoffs begin and baseball's opening day. Yeah. Where does this rank? I feel like this might be the best of everything happening at the same time. Hell, the NFL draft. I haven't left out the draft.
Yeah, draft season. Yeah, so every sport feels like it has. Is there a tennis major, like the French Open or something? I feel like every sport has something. If you're a NASCAR fan, F1, everything's kind of rocking and rolling in April.
That's a great question.
Yeah, this is a great week of sports viewing. Every night you got something crazy happening. Tonight we flipping back and forth between Monday Night Raw and the national championship game. Yeah,
it's top 3. I still love March.
Fall is still incredible because when you get NFL football games in the mix too, and college football fanfare.
Top 3 or 4 though.
Yeah,
for sure.
Definitely. Okay, another round of statements and questions here. Dennis Kirk loves April as well because it's riding season. So, if you're a motorcycle rider or you just like to get on the ATV, the UTV, dirt bikes, you go to DennisKirk.com and check out over 185,000 parts, apparel, and accessories all the top brands with the most stock available compared to their closest competitors. They also offer same-day shipping on orders placed before 6 p.m. Central Time and free shipping on orders over $89. So check them out. They also have lifetime returns. So if it's still like new and they carry the product, you can return it even 10 years later. So that's pretty cool. If something's just kind of collecting dust or whatever, go to DennisKirk.com to check out more details. All right, I know Declan has something on this. I don't want to spoil anything. I just want to make a statement, and maybe this only hits for like 15% of the audience or less. White Lotus is one of the greatest TV shows of all time. And Judd, you have no idea. Like, you've never watched any White Lotus, right? 3 seasons.
I watched a little bit the first year. But
First
no,
year's weird too.
I've never committed to it.
The brilliance, I think the brilliance of the show is twofold. If you haven't dabbled, HBO Max season 3 just wrapped up last night, and a bunch of people watched it and streamed it. Dex and I were on a group text thread with people, and Dex was telling me that he was a little disappointed that it didn't quite tie up all the loose ends. We don't have to get into the details, no spoilers. But the brilliance of this show is twofold. One, it's like a full season of trying to figure out in the first 3 seasons who died at the very beginning of the first episode. They show you like a glimpse of someone's dead.
Oh, okay.
And then it flashes back 1 week earlier at the White Lotus Resort. And they take you on these different paths and journeys and getting to know all these characters. And by the last episode, you know someone's going to die on the last episode, or maybe more than one person. And you're trying to figure it all out as it's playing out. So it's just like a brilliant kind of watch-along show. But the other thing that I love is it takes sometimes completely unknown actors and actresses, or like people you've seen in some things before, and skyrockets their careers to the freaking moon. Like Walton Goggins is going to become one of the most famous actors of the next 5 years because of White Lotus. You know, Sydney Sweeney, right? She was her career kind of skyrocketed.
I mean, but then they do get some good, like Aubrey Plaza was in season 2.
Yeah.
Obviously everyone knows
Jennifer
who
Coolidge.
that is. These gays are trying to kill me.
Yeah.
There's the show's really good. I just didn't. Yeah, I wanted some things tied up. I will say though, because it's the White Lotus, but really in reality it's the 4 Seasons, and the 4 Seasons Hotel is in conjunction with Mark White and the show's direction. And I've been to the one. We drove to the one in Hawaii for season 1, which was cool to see. I love that also 4 Seasons, and I think I saw like they released like kind of not a statement, but they did an interview of like, yeah, this was a risky proposition. We made this in the pandemic. Like people are dying at our hotels. Like that's the premise of this show.
Yeah.
And we knew marketing wise, boy, that's a risky one to do, to come stay at one of the most ritziest hotel chains and most prominent ones in the world. But it's gonna pay off, and boy, it's paying off. Well, dude,
and so Duke was indirectly Duke University.
That was so
one of, not to spoil, like one of the main characters in season 3 he went to Duke.
Yes.
And he's a Duke fan, and his family, his wife's like North Carolina.
Yeah.
So there's a scene where he's got his Duke t-shirt on, and he's contemplating whether to pull the trigger, and he's got the gun up to his head. And Duke University apparently sent like a cease and desist to the production company. Oh, no. And then, of course, after Duke gets beat in the complete meltdown by Duke against Houston, and that meme is just going all over, like, Duke fans right now, and it's this dude from White Lotus.
Most Duke thing of all time. Just like it was a classic Duke thing of like, this is why people don't like Duke. But I know Bill Simmons talked about it in like the first episode, because I was watching all of his recaps on it. I wanted a little bit more of the Duke UNC rivalry, because the mom went to UNC, and I think the daughter Piper went to UNC, but the oldest and the dad went to Duke. I wanted a little bit more Duke UNC. Yeah. It was the first sports rivalry we got in White Lotus, which I liked.
So we'll see if we can get Judd to watch some White Lotus at some point.
I'll try and catch up at some point.
I'll jump in here into, just because we're talking about prestige TV. I love, it's been a long time because of that writer's strike, but my statement is like HBO programming is indeed back. Like it's been a long time.
It's cooking.
You had The Last of Us, which now starts on Sunday. That's based off a video game. And if you haven't watched, even if you didn't play the video game, you can watch that first season and watch this show. And in fact, you might want to take that path because of what takes place in the video games, and you not knowing, I think could actually be more enjoyable for you to watch that show. But Sunday nights, man, like it's appointment viewing in this house. 8 p.m. It is locked down. I don't want to see a phone light up. I'm focused. We are not moving from these spots for the next hour and a half. And when I was a kid, because I grew up with my parents watching Sopranos and 6 Feet Under and Deadwood, if there was a fork dropped in the kitchen above where my parents were watching in the basement, I would have lost a Christmas present. Like, Christmas would have been foregone.
Silence!
Seriously. So I have PTSD, but now as an adult, I'm like, oh, this is what my parents were talking about. This is the best television in the world. Totally.
Yeah,
good.
love that. I mean, Curb, Entourage, going back 20 years too, and then we mentioned on, I think it was Flagrant Howls, the new Celtics docuseries is also on HBO Max. These aren't even like paid HBO Max mentions here, but they have incredible content right now. So yeah. All right, Judd, take us home.
Oh, the Duke loss. The Duke loss was epically great. How much fun was that to watch a blue blood just piss that game away?
Absolute meltdown.
They like, there is no excuse for it. It was atrocious. And I would feel bad for most schools. I really would. Like, it's like, that's too bad. Not for Duke. Yeah. Seeing Houston come back and just take it to them, it was just glorious to watch. Yeah, no school is more deserving than Duke basketball of that.
Cooper Flag, just a rough go there. Had a chance to hit that little mid-range shot.
Kelvin Sampson, too. What, he's 70 now, 71, coach of Houston. Been around forever, become likable.
There was a lot of what was Duke doing moments. There was a bad foul call in there, too. But, okay, everything happens, and then Duke is down by 1 with 3.7 seconds left. And and you got to go the full way. Why a baseball pass? Why wouldn't you been able to inbound it to especially if you get a guy that's like momentum is carrying him, he probably could have got you. I think you can get to the rim in 3.5 seconds if you catch that inbounds pass. It was just kind of a weird, it was like they were trying to rekindle the Christian Laettner shot or something with Cooper Flag.
To Christian pass. Yeah. I don't know, but I immensely enjoyed it because it looked like I think Houston was down by like 11. Really
they were down by 14 points with like 8 minutes to go.
Yeah, so
they were down by 7 points with a minute to go.
I loved it.
And they came back, and there was really no metric that would have shown you they should have won that game.
Duke and Florida.
But they played crazy defense.
Tonight, I'd be like, I don't even give a crap. Now I actually care a little bit, so it's more fun now.
Houston's a throwback. I mean, they've obviously popped up in the last 5 years and are now one of the best programs in the country. But they had Olajuwon and Drexler, right, in the 80s?
Oh, yeah. Clyde the Glide was there.
And they were a powerhouse for a few years, and then they were dormant for like 20 or 25 years, not relevant at all, and here they are.
How about Olajuwon not being allowed on the floor to celebrate?
Yeah,
security stopped him.
Was Jim Nance allowed on the floor?
Probably. But, I mean, it's Hakeem freaking Olajuwon, and you don't know. And, like, a guy tried to come and vouch, and so you're like, yeah, this guy is freaking Hakeem. And they're like, no, he can't go on the floor.
He doesn't have the right credential.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
I am a public relations person.
Allow this man to celebrate.
All right, those are your important statements and questions here. Minnesota Sports with Mackey and Judd. We got our guy Doogie back from his White Lotus spring break. We'll see if anyone got murdered.
Yep.
My only other statement would be always rinse out the blender when you're done. Just good general life advice, Judd. Always rinse out the blender. I don't
use a blender, so.
Yep, or just don't use a blender.
I just cut stuff up.
I would just listen to Declan do the White Lotus sound.
They dropped the ball. They dropped the ball on that theme this year.
Wow.
All right.